In the final seasons of life, the body and mind often whisper truths before they speak them aloud. As we age, we begin to experience a slow unfolding, a quiet letting go of the physical form. In Buddhism, aging is neither feared nor avoided but deeply understood as part of the cycle of impermanence, or anicca. This natural process offers us not only insight into the nature of the body but also an invitation to deepen our mindfulness, compassion, and non-attachment. Today, we will reflect upon 5 subtle yet profound signs that often arise in the last year of life. These signs are not merely physical phenomena but carry deep spiritual significance. They remind us to listen closely, to ourselves, our loved ones, and the flow of nature within and around us. The Buddha taught that understanding suffering and its causes is the first step toward liberation. These signs, though heavy, offer a doorway to emotional clarity and inner peace when approached with awareness. Through this video, we will explore these changes with the gentleness and wisdom found in traditional Buddhist teachings. We will walk together through the signs of unintentional weight loss, profound fatigue, cognitive and emotional shifts, repeated illness, and the final transformations in breathing and circulation. With each, we'll uncover not just what is happening physically, but what it reveals about the deeper journey of release, acceptance, and the beauty of the path toward peace. Whether you are aging yourself, caring for someone in their later years, or simply walking this path with openness, may this reflection bring comfort, insight, and spiritual growth. Let us begin with the first sign that often appears in the last year of life: unintentional weight loss, a subtle yet meaningful transformation that many overlook or misunderstand. As the body quietly begins to prepare for its final journey, it starts to let go of what it no longer needs, and this often manifests through a gentle shedding of weight. This change is not necessarily a sign of failure or deterioration in a fearful sense, but rather a natural, spiritual letting go that reflects the body's gradual detachment from worldly appetites and physical burdens. In Buddhist teachings, the body is described not with hatred but with clear understanding, as a form subject to change, discomfort, and dissolution. The Buddha called it a heap of suffering, not to condemn it, but to help us see its impermanent nature and not cling to it as our true self. When an elderly person begins to lose weight without trying, it can understandably bring worry to loved ones and caregivers. Yet from the perspective of the Dharma, this is not just a medical concern, it is also a sign that the body is beginning to loosen its grip on the physical world. Just as the autumn tree naturally releases its golden leaves without resistance, so too does the aging body release its excess, muscle, fat, appetite, lightening the load as it prepares for a more subtle form of existence. This is not to say that medical care should be dismissed, but rather that we should also look with spiritual eyes. The Buddha said, "Whatever is of the nature to arise, is of the nature to cease." This includes our physical form, our hunger, our vigor, and our strength. In this light, unintentional weight loss is not simply a problem to fix, but a sacred process to understand. Families may feel the urge to intervene, encouraging more food, tracking calories, or trying to restore what appears to be lost. But Buddhist wisdom encourages us to meet change with mindfulness, not resistance. The most loving thing we can offer may not be more food, but more presence. This is the time to offer nourishment with kindness, to honor each meal as a gift, and to support the person not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually. The softening of the body can be a powerful symbol of the deepening of the spirit. This loss is not just flesh, it is attachment being loosened. The elderly body, worn and wise, is slowly preparing for its release, and in this quiet undoing, we are invited to practice non-attachment, compassion, and deep reverence. Let us not be frightened by this shedding, but rather allow it to be a teacher. In every gram released, we are reminded of anicca, impermanence, the universal truth that everything changes, everything passes, and in that passing, there is profound beauty. Let us hold this truth gently in our hearts, and meet this transition with grace, mindfulness, and love. As we continue exploring the subtle but meaningful signs that may appear in the final year of life, let us now turn to the second: profound fatigue and weakness. An experience not merely of tiredness, but of the body gradually answering the deeper call to rest. In Buddhist wisdom, rest is not a failure of energy, but a return to stillness. When an elderly person begins to sleep more, speak less, or move slowly, it can be unsettling for those around them. But if we look closely through the lens of mindfulness and compassion, we can see that this is not simply exhaustion, it is the body's sacred surrender. As the life force begins to ebb, the physical form no longer strives, no longer pushes. It turns inward, drawing energy away from activity and into presence. The Buddha often taught in quiet forests, where stillness itself carried the teachings. In the same way, profound fatigue in the elderly carries a message, that the time for action is waning, and the time for simply being has come. The body, like a worn robe, begins to fold, gently yielding to the natural law of impermanence. There is no shame in this slowing down. The Dhammapada reminds us, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. What we are witnessing in our loved ones, as they tire more deeply than ever before, is not the extinguishing of spirit but the retreat of form. The body no longer holds the same urgency, because the soul, whether we call it consciousness, awareness, or simply presence, is turning toward release. In this moment, Buddhist practice calls us not to stir the body with urgency, but to sit beside it with gentle care. We must learn to listen, not to push for more activity or more alertness, but to honor the body's natural rhythm. To the one experiencing it, this profound fatigue may feel like floating, neither fully here nor fully gone. And for the caregiver, the temptation may arise to stimulate, to energize, to awaken. But wisdom lies in letting go of that impulse and instead practicing noble silence, deep presence, and compassion. This is when rest becomes not just a remedy but a calling. A passage from outer movement to inner stillness. Every hour of sleep, every moment of stillness, is a soft letting go. Just as monks withdraw from the noise of the world to seek truth in the silence of the forest, so too do the elderly withdraw, not out of despair, but in quiet preparation. Let us sit with them, not trying to pull them back into activity, but joining them in peaceful awareness. Let us offer our hands not to lift them into what was, but to hold space for what is. For in this weariness, there is wisdom. In this weakness, there is grace. And in this slowing down, there is the whisper of the Dharma, reminding us that the path to liberation is not found in doing, but in being, watching, and letting go. As we move into the third sign that often appears in the final year of life, we arrive at a deeply delicate and mysterious shift, cognitive changes and emotional withdrawal, a sign that the mind is gradually drifting between this world and the next. In Buddhist teaching, the mind is not merely a tool of thought but the very seat of awareness. When an elderly person begins to forget names, lose track of conversations, or retreat from social interaction, we are not merely witnessing decline, we are observing a gentle reorientation of consciousness. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a candle flame, it flickers, it dances, it dims, and it rises depending on the wind of conditions. As death approaches, the flame does not extinguish suddenly, but wavers softly between the known and the unknown. These cognitive shifts, confusion, disorientation, forgetfulness, can be frightening, especially for loved ones who long for connection, who want their mother, father or partner to remain fully present. But from a place of mindfulness, we understand that this fading of worldly focus is not only natural but also sacred. The person is not disappearing, they are journeying inward. Emotional withdrawal often accompanies this shift. Conversations become shorter, eye contact more fleeting. They may seem distant or uninterested, not because they no longer care, but because the pull toward silence and stillness grows stronger. This is the mind beginning to untangle from worldly attachments. In Buddhism, this is known as the loosening of Sakkayaditthi, the view of self, as the individual begins to unconsciously prepare for the dissolution of ego and identity. The Buddha reminded us, just as a flame blown by the wind goes out and cannot be defined, so too is the state of one who has gone beyond. What appears as forgetfulness may in fact be the mind's way of stepping lightly into detachment. The stories of this life begin to blur, not as a failure of memory but as a return to the timeless. As caregivers or observers, our task is not to correct or fix these changes, but to be present with loving kindness. When they forget, we can gently remind without frustration. When they grow quiet, we can sit beside them without demanding words. When they seem lost in thought, we can breathe with them in silence, trusting that this inner journey is one they must take alone, but not without our support. In this stage, the mind becomes like a traveler packing lightly for the journey ahead, letting go of old mental baggage, unnecessary conversation, and the identities once worn so tightly. It is a process that calls for patience and reverence. Emotional withdrawal is not rejection, it is transition. Let us honor this phase not with sorrow, but with spaciousness. Let us offer not only care but presence, not only comfort but respect. For here, in this quiet withdrawing, we see the Dharma at work, the mind loosening its grasp, preparing for release, and gently crossing the threshold between this world and the next. As we gently move into the fourth subtle sign often seen in the final year of life, we begin to witness the body's increasing vulnerability to frequent infections and its growing slowness to heal. A quiet, unspoken surrender that mirrors the Earth's cycle of return. In the Buddhist view, this stage is not something to fear or resist, but something to understand as part of the natural unfolding of impermanence. The Buddha often reminded us that the body is composed of elements, earth, water, fire and air, and that these elements, which once came together at birth, will one day dissolve and return to their original state. When we see our loved ones catching colds more often, or when a small wound takes longer than usual to mend, we are witnessing this elemental disintegration, this gentle unwinding of the physical form. The immune system, once a silent guardian, now becomes less responsive, not because the body has failed, but because it no longer clings to defense. It is as if the body is bowing slowly to the law of nature, releasing its struggle, softening its grip, and preparing for its return to stillness. From a place of mindfulness, this can be seen not as a deterioration, but as a sacred rhythm, a reminder that all compounded things are subject to decay. The Dhammapada says, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. For caregivers and companions, these physical changes may be difficult to witness. There is a natural tendency to wish for recovery, to search for remedies, to push against the tide of decline. And while gentle care and medical attention are still valuable acts of compassion, the deeper calling is to understand and accept this process through the lens of spiritual growth. We are not merely witnessing a body struggling, we are observing a life slowly returning to the earth with grace. The slow healing and frequent illnesses become part of a sacred conversation between the body and the elements, a kind of wordless chant that says, it is time to rest. The skin may bruise more easily, the lungs may struggle against pneumonia, the mouth may grow dry, not as punishments, but as signals. The body is no longer building toward survival, it is easing toward release. And here, too, we are invited into presence. To offer warmth, gentle bathing, herbal teas, soothing hands, and soft voices, not in an effort to fight death, but to accompany life in its final chapter with dignity. There is no need to fill the silence with worry. Let us meet each fever, each slow healing wound, with compassion instead of fear. The teachings of the Buddha guide us toward peace by showing us the truth of impermanence, not to create despair, but to dissolve resistance. In the quiet surrender of the body, we are reminded of the stillness beneath all movement, the earth beneath all journeys. Let us bow gently to this process, and hold it with mindful reverence. As we arrive at the fifth and final sign often observed in the last year of life, we turn our awareness to the changes in breathing and circulation, the body's quiet, rhythmic preparation for departure, the sacred fading of the physical form. In the light of Buddhist wisdom, this final transition is not a moment of fear, but one of deep reverence. The breath, which once entered the body with the very first cry at birth, now begins to slow, to stagger, to soften. Sometimes it comes in waves, long pauses, shallow inhalations, or labored exhalations, reminding us that even the most vital rhythms are subject to impermanence. The Buddha spoke often of the breath, not only as the anchor of mindfulness, but as a symbol of life's delicate and temporary nature. In meditation, we are taught to watch the breath come and go without attachment, just as we must learn to watch the life force itself rise and fall without clinging. When we notice an elderly loved one's hands growing cooler, their heartbeat irregular, their breaths more spaced apart, we are witnessing the body's return to its original stillness. This is not a collapse but a quiet completion. The blood no longer rushes to every corner, it recedes, gently, as though nature herself were dimming the lights in preparation for a peaceful sleep. From the Buddhist perspective, these physical signs are not random or cruel, they are reminders of the truth of anicca, impermanence. The Dhammapada tells us, just as a flame blown by the wind goes out, so too the body comes to rest. These moments offer profound teaching for the observer, how to be present without trying to fix, how to love without holding tightly, how to honor without interfering. As breathing changes, it may be tempting to panic, to call for intervention, to grasp at extensions, but Buddhist mindfulness invites a different response, one of calm observation and compassionate presence. A hand held gently, a whispered chant of loving kindness, or simply sitting nearby in silence, these are enough. The fading of breath is not just a physical event. It is a doorway to the unseen, a gentle retreat from the form toward the formless. In these final hours or days, the person may hover between this world and the next, not fully awake, not fully gone, a space the Buddha described as a transition of consciousness. The body is not broken, it is completing its sacred task. The soul is not vanishing, it is moving toward release. In these changes in breath and circulation, we are given a rare chance to practice the deepest non-attachment, to love fully without clinging, to honor life without resisting its closure. Let us not rush these final moments. Let us breathe with them. For in the stillness of each exhale, the teachings of peace, impermanence, and liberation quietly unfold, showing us that even in the final breath, there is beauty, truth, and awakening. As we now come to the end of our gentle exploration of the final signs in the last year of life, it is time to pause and reflect. Not with sorrow, but with a calm heart full of understanding and compassion. These sacred transitions, while often quiet and subtle, offer us profound insight into the impermanent nature of existence and the depth of love that continues long after breath has ceased. In the Buddhist path, awareness is our refuge, and in these final moments with a loved one, mindfulness becomes both a practice and a gift. Whether you are a caregiver, a family member, or a close friend, your presence matters more than words can express. To sit in silence beside someone nearing the end of life is a sacred act of generosity. Offer a calm hand, speak with gentleness, and allow space for stillness. Let your eyes speak peace when words are no longer needed. There is no need to fill the silence with fear or force, the most healing offering is your simple, loving awareness. Create a peaceful environment, light a soft candle, play gentle chanting, or open a window to let in the breeze. Remind them, through your presence, that they are safe, they are loved, and they are not alone. The Buddha taught that clinging leads to suffering, but letting go with compassion leads to liberation. When we see the signs we've discussed, weight loss, fatigue, cognitive withdrawal, illness, and changes in breath, we are not witnessing defeat, we are witnessing the soul's quiet preparation for release. This is not the end of love. It is the transformation of love. It is its return to the silence from which it arose. In Buddhist wisdom, we are reminded that everything conditioned is impermanent, yet the love cultivated in our hearts is never lost. It simply changes form. It may echo in a memory, rise in a dream, or appear in the gentle way we care for others. The person may pass from this world, but their essence lives in the way they shaped your life, in the lessons they leave behind, and in the calm presence you now bring to others. Take time to grieve, but also to honor. Chant a verse, meditate with their memory, or offer merit through compassionate acts. Let your sorrow be full of love, and let your remembrance be a path to spiritual growth. As you journey through aging or accompany someone nearing the end, know this: peace of mind is not a far destination, it is a quiet choice made in each moment of presence. Spiritual growth is not about escaping death, but about embracing life fully, even in its final stages. Thank you for walking this path of awareness with us. If this message touched your heart, offered comfort, or helped you see the final stages of life with greater peace and clarity, we invite you to take a moment and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story matters. Whether you've walked beside a loved one in their final days, experienced any of these signs personally, or simply wish to reflect, we would be honored to hear from you. Let this be a space of compassion, support, and shared humanity, where your voice brings peace to someone else's journey. Please remember to like this video if it brought value to your day, and don't forget to subscribe to Mindful Pathway Media for more gentle, wisdom-filled content grounded in Buddhist teachings. Every week, we bring you reflections to help you navigate aging with grace, find inner peace, and live mindfully through all of life's changes. If you know someone who may benefit from these teachings, please share this video with them. It may offer exactly the peace they need right now. Together, through mindfulness, compassion, and community, we can bring light to even the most tender parts of life's path. Thank you for being here. Let's continue walking this mindful journey, together.